Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Myra Salcido from University of Texas Permian Basin, and I am in my home office, as are most teachers around the country today. Unfortunately, because of the coronavirus, it's really made things difficult for a lot of people, especially people. I'm trying to help teachers go online who've never been online. I took an extra class starting spring break, and I have so many students, and I'm trying to get to everybody. In this particular class, 1302, I noticed people are struggling quite a bit with modern language association style. It does not help that it changed in the last few years from the 7th edition to the 8th edition, and little things changed. For example, there's no underlining in modern language association style, MLA style, anymore. If it's a title of a book or a newspaper, it's in italics. No quotation marks, just italics. So you would italicize a book title. No underlining in the paper anywhere. No bold type anywhere. Do not make the title of your paper in a different huge font size. It's just the standard 12-point Times New Roman font. Now, I did put in MLA template for people to type directly into to try to get the hang of the format. Problem with that template is it's an older template, and it's actually 7. So I don't know if it has the underlining mentioned in it. It's a standard template. But there's no underlining if it's mentioned. And the other thing that would be incorrect would be on the works cited page after a book, you would put the word print. That's gone away. Reason being, there's so many electronic books and digital textbooks and books online that it really doesn't matter whether you got a print text copy or you read it on your Kindle or where you got it. What we do care about is the author's last name, comma, first name, period, in italics, title of the book, comma. After that, you would have the publisher, not the city, just the publisher, comma, date of publication, period. So that's just for book title. We no longer care whether it was published in Boston, London, New York, wherever, because some things are published in 15 places. So you don't need the city of publication, but we do need to know who the publisher is. Also, paraphrasing. There's an assignment that people just did on some did on paraphrasing and didn't understand it at all. I'm sorry about that. Paraphrasing is taking a paragraph that somebody wrote and picking out a sentence or two or an idea or two and summing it up in your own words. And some people are actually good writers. Scholars will read a paragraph, turn the paper over or look away and just type the gist of what they got from that paragraph. And it may be just 2 sentences. Then you can look and double check to make sure you're not misunderstanding the sentences. And at the end of the 2 sentences, begin parentheses, author's last name, space, page number, in parentheses. Author's last name, space, and page number in parentheses. Reason being that we don't need a comma in there anymore. We know if the last name is there, so the source of the author and the page number. If you don't have page numbers, that's a red flag. That means you may be getting things from random websites. Please do not use the History Channel, Ask Jeeves, About.com, free essay sites. Use scholarly academic sites that end in .edu or .gov, Gov for statistics if you're doing a research paper. Anyways, if you quote somebody word for word, it's not a paraphrase, it's a quotation. And then you would have the quotation marks. And you would still have, after the quotation marks, a parentheses with author's last name, page number. So if you're using the online textbook, you will have page numbers. And if you're using other textbooks, you will have page numbers. If you're using websites, you will not. And mostly, I would say, do not use websites, especially websites that make the decisions for you. I've had people look up for the Martin Luther King Jr. paper, King, ethos, pathos, logos, and found a website that analyzed and summarized and got all your own ideas for you so you didn't have to think for yourself. And then they quote these sites in the works cited, and I'm like, oh no, don't do that, because that's academic dishonesty. You're using someone else's ideas. You didn't think for yourself. Try to use the original sources. Like, for example, a letter from Birmingham jail, you would use King's letter. Maybe the letter that ran in a newspaper from the clergyman is another second source. And then you could use in your textbook, online textbook from UTPB, the great introduction written by Clark Moreland, who is another instructor at UTPB, and you could quote from them. Now, when you quote King's words, you would start your citation with King, comma, Martin Luther Jr., in quotation marks, letter from Birmingham jail, because it's not an entire book. So it's in quotation marks. And then where you got it from. So if it's King speaking, then King is who you have in the works cited, not the publisher or the editor of the letter or wherever else you got it. It would be King's name. Who is speaking? That's the name that goes in the parentheses. So if you have Clark Moreland, if you're quoting him from the biography that he wrote, the background information you get from him, you could quote Moreland, page number. Page numbers are really important. It leads the reader back if they want to look something up to find out. It lets me know, where did you get this? And keep it honest and try to use scholarly websites. A lot of plagiarism is unintentional because people do not know how to cite, and hopefully by the end of English 1302 you will know how to cite works and create a works cited page where you got your sources from. And it's called works cited, not bibliography or reference page. Those are other formats and styles other than MLA. So for English and some of your other classes, maybe history, music, and some of them will use MLA style for essays. So you do need to learn it. For Martin Luther King Jr., once you have said his name once, you do not put his whole name throughout the rest of the paper. You just put King, not Dr. King. You could say the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when you refer to him in the beginning, but once you have the whole title, you only use the person's last name. space, page number in the parentheses. So you also need to keep in mind that you can overquote. Quotation should be about 30% of your paper or less. And that would be in a 10-page paper, and you do not want any full-page quotations. And with King, that's a real problem because there are paragraphs that he has that are almost a full page. And he uses punctuation all through it, and one of the big paragraphs is almost a whole page and one sentence. It's almost all one sentence with just really amazing usages of punctuation. For the King paper also, you need to have a thesis statement. You need to say which rhetorical appeal, ethos, pathos, or logos he used best. You could find the paragraph that you relate to the most, describe it, quote King, you can quote Moreland, you can quote the clergyman, and find a paragraph that you think resonates the most with you or with people or a certain audience. Say why, and say what kind of rhetorical appeal it is. You should have a main point to this paper. It's not an autobiography or a life story of King. It focuses on Letter from Birmingham Jail. First thing you should do is introduce King. Use the biography from Moreland if possible. Don't just jump in and say, I think the best paragraph in this paper is, because you'll end up with too short of a paper, and the reader who might not be familiar with King gets no background. So introduce King before you get into Letter from Birmingham Jail. You could talk about the circumstances of how he began to write the letter, where he was, why was he in Birmingham, his credentials, his background, and be sure to cite where you get this information. It's someone else's ideas. So this is getting long, and I'm also going to talk about the research paper in a video I'm making right after this, but I'm trying to address MLA style and the King paper first. So I will start the next video in a few minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye.